All right. Let's see. Awesome. We're live. Just watching the chat here. How are you guys doing today? Just adjusting my settings. Yes, I live. It is true. Oh man, the past week has been insane. So crazy. So yeah, and I have some updates. Um, yeah, I think you guys are not gonna believe just how crazy it was. Who hacked me? A mysterious organization. But in all seriousness, yeah, it was a sponsorship offer that I got. By the way, is the audio good? How's that sounding? What did I do to get hacked? Yeah. So I got a sponsorship offer, and the website looked very good. It checked out, and um, and I they this isn't unusual because I come from the business world, and so they track stuff, which is normal. But in this situation, they wanted me to sign up on their website so that their team can track me and the deal through that. And so I signed up with my Google account, and as I was doing this, it was glitching out, and I was wondering, is this like a server issue? Is it something on my end? And so I wasn't sure. That should have been the first major red flag, because there were few other signs up until then. The email looked fine and professional, but their website, that's how they got me, was signing up through their website, and then they were able to get my channel. So the good news though is that I have separate Google accounts, so they weren't able to get too much. If they were trying to get personal information, then they wouldn't have gotten too much. So yeah, thankfully, it was only the channel, which just seems crazy, just given how much how important it is to everyone here. Um, yeah, what age am I? I am 20. I have gotten so many people telling me that like when I first meet people, they're like, "So how's high school?" And I'm like, "I graduated 3 years ago," and it's just always funny to see people's reactions. Is there an upcoming film I'm excited to see in theaters? Um, well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is next year, the Mel Gibson's two-part Resurrection, uh, I guess, series is coming out, and so it'll be The Passion, fantastic movie, and then he says that the Resurrection is apparently it's going to be an acid trip. Like he's going to showcase like hell and the falling of the angels and stuff like that. I'm so excited for that. And then I think what else? Something else is coming out next year. It might be. I think is it The Hunt for Gollum or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, there's another movie on its way. So yeah, I think yeah, those are. I'm excited for those. Mel Gibson has some fantastic movies. Yeah. Um, I just finished high school and I still look pretty young. Yeah, yeah. Mexican American, how you doing? Yeah, well, Tim, we have that youthful beauty, so we'll age like a fine wine. We'll age well. It reminds me of Ralph Macchio from Karate Kid, and you can watch this video on YouTube where he's in an interview at 18 years old and he looks like he's 14, and then when he's 30 he looks like he's 20, and so on and so forth. he's in his 60s now, and he looks 40, maybe, or like a very good looking 50-year-old, or like his, I don't know. He has aged very well. So I'm hoping somehow to end up like that. uh, yeah. Yeah, Christian movies, that's a tough one. Actually, it reminds me of, what was it? Animal Farm that came out from Angel Studios. That one bombed. I mean, the reason is because they totally changed the message, or so it seemed, from what it was originally from George Orwell's original book. By the way, 1984, fantastic read. Would 100% recommend, even though it is depressing. But it's it's very good to understand what are the dangers of a lot of this societal stuff that we're experiencing. What kind of Christian do I consider myself? So I'm in a sort of exploratory period right now. And the reason I say that is because I grew up Reformed Presbyterian. And so I'm very, familiar with John Calvin, John Knox. And then some of the more modern theologians, like I'm thinking of Gary DeMar, Gary North, Greg Bonson, really solid dudes. Post millennial theology and all of that. I don't know. So a lot of complex words. But yeah, recently, I say recently, about Christmas time, no, November-ish last year. I don't know, I just felt this pull in my heart to just start learning more about the early church. And I have a friend who's older than me, and we were coworkers at the job that I was in at the time. And he had converted to Catholicism from Reformed Presbyterian a number of years before. So I was asking him these questions like, do Catholics really worship Mary and all that stuff? And he was like, no, that's not true. And so just kind of like not wanting to like be a Catholic, but just at that point, just kind of being like, what do they believe really? Just with genuine curiosity. And so since then, just kind of been learning more about the Catholic faith and just trying to figure out, the historical Christian approach and, which faith today lines up with that, because I really want to be aligned with, like, what did Jesus' disciples believe? And that's, what I want to be aligned with, because there's a lot of information out there, but it's just, how do you discern it? So I could go deeper into that, but that's the surface level kind of explanation. Yeah, the resurrection should be good. I'm very hopeful. Yeah, Hunt for Gollum from Andy Serkis. Um, I read a quote the other day where he was asked the question on how he's going to approach the race of all of the characters in Middle Earth, and he just says straight up, I'll have to find the post. It was really good, where he's just saying, we're not doing the diversity BS. We're going to cast characters that align with the ethnicities that Tolkien made his characters in Middle Earth. So I just think that's awesome. Like, stay true to the books. This doesn't have to do with, like, we're not trying to offend people. We're just trying to be true to the books. Which brings me to, like, Brandon Sanderson, and he's working on a Mistborn adaptation, and he's writing the screenplay. So I'm so excited. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Do I have any thoughts on the band 21 Pilots? I've listened to a few of their songs, so I can't really speak to anything in depth. It's been a while since I've listened to their music. If I think to, everyone knows the song Stressed Out. I think it just sounds like a coming of age song of just a young man trying to, like, express the difficulties and the struggles that he's having as he's coming of age. That's kind of how it seems to me. So I'm working on a Christian thriller that's inspired by A24 movie Heretic, about a Christian who doubts his salvation and gets trapped by an atheist to prove his salvation is legit. Okay, say more. I haven't seen the movie Heretic, so there is that. What's the general like theme? I mean, like not the theme, the plot, I guess I could say. Unless you don't want to reveal, which is totally fine. Do I use Letterboxd? No, I don't. But I do I do keep a tier list, like a huge Google sheet of all the movies that I've watched. And I've been keeping that since 2024, maybe 25. And so I have it, where is it? If it's in my newsletter, which I'm doing a monthly newsletter now where I dive into films, I'll dive into storytelling principles. And so actually there's going to be an email going out next Monday. So if you guys sign up, I'll have to get the link for you. But I also have a film doc where I just keep a tier list of everything that I've watched. So hold on, I'm getting the link for you guys. Oh, I'm getting a content thing. No? Okay, well, that's weird. Uno momento. As you're exploring Christianity, remember that the Bible is the standard we ought to view history and tradition through, foremost authority and guide. Yes. However, I would say this is where some of the more nuanced theology gets in, because the Catholics, they would say that it's actually, it's three things. It is tradition, it is scripture, and it's the magisterium. And so that's, you need an institution to be able to interpret the scripture, which is why, we have a bajillion denominations in Protestantism, because the guy that, there are two pastors on one street and they both disagree on what scripture is, and they're both citing scripture as the source for their opinions. And so where's the tiebreaker, right? And so that is a question I have been wrestling with, because I see a lot of hypocrisy in that, and just like, who do you trust? Whose opinion? And so that's where it goes to historically, what did Christians believe, and then all of that. So it's honestly a very interesting journey, and it's just learning about history. I think more Christians should do that, even if it's not just for like personal interest, like to be able to strengthen your faith and see what other Christians in the past history have gone through and believed. Have I read Dracula? I have. Actually, I got an excerpt. Hold on, I'm just going to change a setting real quick. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Have I read Dracula? Okay. I have a book that is a compilation of a bunch of different things, including the first few chapters of Dracula. So I have read, I think, the first 5 chapters of Dracula. So anyway, something I did not know about the horror genre was and the fantasy genre too, interestingly enough. Basically, both were started by Christians. And so, I mean, like, the genres as we know them today have skewed from the original how those genres were. So fantasy, for example, we have Tolkien, we have Lewis, and we have George MacDonald, who both of them were greatly inspired by George MacDonald. And then you even go as far back as Beowulf, which has some enormous Christian themes in it, the singular God and all of that, and it's just very cool. The horror genre, Bram Stoker, who made Dracula. Then there's Mary Shelley, who made Frankenstein. Then there's Dante, who made the Divine Comedy and the Inferno, the Levels of Hell, and all of that. And so it's just very cool to see that these genres actually a lot of Christians, unfortunately, say that horror is an evil genre, which they're pointing to the modern skewed version of where this genre originally was, which in Dracula, where we see this not a cautionary tale, but kind of like I was going to say dichotomy, but a comparison between Christ and his sacrifice, which was he gave himself up so that others may live, whereas Dracula sacrifices others so he can live. And there's this theme of blood, the life is in the blood, which I believe comes from Leviticus. And it's just very interesting once you start digging into that. So, am I going to start streaming Trump and crypto? Yeah, that was very weird. So strange. Hey, they will be filled. Glad to see you here. What direction do I see the channel going? So that's a very interesting question. And the video that's coming out soon will be, I think, help define where this channel goes from there. I still see it a lot more like exploring movies and maybe eventually video games even. Because I think it's important that we're able to analyze things in pop culture and in media and see where are the roots of the good storytelling and how can we kind of chew the meat, spit out the bone, and learn to discern this. So it's kind of still exploratory, but the next film should help give you an idea of where I'm trying to go. Yeah, there is too much division between denominations. Yeah, there is. None of us do have perfect theology. That's why, honestly, I just like exploring the history, because it's just, at the very least, intriguing to see where are roots, and then how does that help you to discern, when everybody is, giving their opinion, who do you see who to trust? And so having that historical benchmark helps a lot. Hey, Melody. What are my views on PG-13 and R-rated movies? So, I think both are fine. It just depends what kind of movie it is. What's the context? So, for example, The Book of Eli. So that movie is, I think it's R-rated. I'm pretty sure it is. There's a lot of cursing and there's some violence, and this story takes place in an apocalyptic dystopian world where we're kind of in the age of kind of like a nuclear fallout. And so it takes place in a world where full of wickedness, and the main character is kind of like one of the last righteous men he's on this mission to spread the gospel. And he's kind of like a Christian John Wick. It's very cool. So the thing with when it comes to the content of a film and how violent or whatever, it depends on the context of the story and then on your audience. Is your audience going to be full of little kids? In that case, keep it family friendly, obviously. But if your audience is going to be young adults who are struggling to figure out their place in this world, and you're trying to tell them a message of good versus evil, and it just depends. So it's a nuanced answer, and it takes discernment. That said, scripture is very clear. With nudity, it never goes into graphic detail of pornography. And so that's what we want to stay away from. I'm definitely more cautious when it comes to nudity and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I prefer to err on the side of caution. Who the audience is going to be is supposed to be the point of the rating. Well, I meant more from a storytelling position. When you as the storyteller are sitting down to write your story, you need to keep in mind, who am I telling this story to? Is it someone your age, someone younger? And so just as the storyteller, kind of like if you're going to be a bard in medieval times, you'd want to know who your audience is, and you'd gauge like, okay, I have these kinds of members here. I'm going to tell this kind of story. So yes, exactly. No naked people in a Toy Story movie. Christian art should also challenge church theology and see if they line up. It definitely can. I guess the Passion of the Christ kind of did that. There's a lot in there. Yeah. Do I watch Geeky Stoics? I have seen a number of his videos. Yes. I'm working, they will be filled, says, I'm working on realistic animation to make my films through Unreal Engine. Dude, Unreal Engine is so dope. I was, had a summer internship 2 years in a row, and learned Unreal Engine. It's a very cool software. It's so cool what you can do. Meme says, which fiction books have inspired your filmmaking the most? So, Brandon Sanderson's books, hands down. And then followed by Robert Jordan and his Wheel of Time series. The first 3 books are the best. The rest are just kind of becomes a slog. Could have compressed that into maybe 6 books, but it's 14 and it's just ridiculous. On that, it's kind of funny. I have a friend who, he doesn't read books at all, but he's an author and he watches a lot of movies, and his books are fantastic. I read a lot of books, but I don't watch a ton of movies, and yet I'm a filmmaker. So it's just funny to see those 2 comparisons. Which filmmakers have inspired my work the most? Oh, goodness. It's kind of a mishmash. When I first got into making content, it was comedy sketches. And so Daniel Thrasher was one. I was 15 at the time. And so, hey, Fami Blocks, how you doing? And so, yeah, I started with comedy sketches and then transitioned into making 2 Star Wars short films. And so that was inspired by, there's a plethora of fan Star Wars films on YouTube that are so cool, so well done. And then that kind of transitioned into analog horror. So Mandela Catalog, Greylock tapes, what else? The Backrooms. And then as I've gotten older, it's kind of like Gox. I don't know if you guys know him, GAWX. He has some fantastic, like, cinematic video essays almost. And so that inspired my video on The Passion of the Christ, where I did all that cinematography and just experimentation. So it is a conglomeration of a whole bunch of people. I couldn't really point to a singular person, although Mel Gibson is a huge inspiration as just like a Christian, and his movies have been so impactful in my life. I saw The Passion of the Christ for the 2nd time last year. Changed my life. In fantastic film. What are some books I would recommend for Christian authors? Destiny's Edge. I don't know if he's here, but I know this author personally. It's kind of like if Hacksaw Ridge and Halo had a baby, and see you, Tim. Thanks for being here. And it's kind of like Halo and Hacksaw Ridge, and it's like sci-fi. The guy is a Christian, and there's some really good romance in it. Actually, it's still clean. Yeah. So Destiny's Edge. Look that up. Fantastic series. It's 6 books so far. I am planning to do a video on it next year. So I'm going to start reading it again for the second time. I read the whole thing. It was a cannot put it down kind of book series. And it was insane. Yeah. I'm just thinking of, there were so many parts in the book, in the series. Yeah, just Destiny's Edge, where I almost like cried. And I'm not an emotional reader with fiction, but it was good. I cannot recommend it enough. Highly recommend. Yeah. And it's a terrific series. If you want to learn a lot about redemption arcs, redemption of villains, there's kind of like a Saul to Paul moment with one of the characters, which I won't spoil, but I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's it's such a good series. 10 o'clock. All right. Thanks for being here, Fami, and I will see you later. Thank you for being here. So, since you guys are here, hold on, I'm just opening something. Yeah, so, what challenging themes do you want to see Christian movies tackle? That is a fantastic question. I will tell you what I gravitate towards. I gravitate toward the grittier themes, because in the gritty themes and in the realism, you can explore a lot of the stuff that we experience every day. So cautionary tales makes me think of Breaking Bad. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but basically it's this man who he's dying, and he wants to leave his family with something so that he just doesn't die, and they're left with nothing and they're destitute. And he's a chemistry teacher, so he's like, well, I'm gonna start making meth because that fetches a pretty price. And we just see him going through, every time there's a fork in the road and he has two choices, he always makes the worst one because it's for my family, right? And we see this tale of this man who slowly becomes worse and a worse version of himself. And we see the fallout of, he could make the good decision to walk away and try something else, or go further into the abyss. And we see him continually walk into the abyss. And so that's what I gravitate toward, is the cautionary tales, and I love a good mystery. So seeing like, yeah, just the to be able to weave together a story that is both real, relatable, like you get why he's making the bad decisions, but they're still bad, and you're kind of like, dude, what are you doing? And so, yeah, just kind of. But if I had to get, does that kind of help? Good coffee, by the way. You guys are. I don't know where I was going with that, but this is a solid cup of Joe. Actually, let me ask you guys this. So I'm planning to do a video on the fantasy genre later this year. What other kinds of videos do you guys want to see? Would you be interested in that? Because I'm planning to explore kind of like where fantasy started, and then comparing it to modern fantasy today, which is, Rings of Power, and Narnia is coming out later this year, but Aslan is going to be voiced by a female character, Meryl Streep, I believe. So, it's a gong show. But the fantasy genre has gotten so... Oh, and then there's Snow White. So the fantasy genre has become completely filled with this, the DEI nonsense, because we've deviated from the Christian origins. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit my videos. I I was doing how long? Hold on a minute. How long have I been editing for? I've been editing videos for 8 years, and I was using Premiere Pro for 7. So I just switched over to over 7 years. I just switched over to DaVinci Resolve the past February. So big. That was a big switch, because when you learn one singular software for editing for 7 years and then you switch over, it's like, whoa. But I'm glad, because DaVinci Resolve, there's a free version. Would highly recommend. Phenomenal software. It, like, now that I've switched over, I'm thinking, why didn't I do this before? Because it just makes so much sense from an editing, filmmaking perspective, how they've set it up. Very good software. Just started reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, yeah. It's disappointing that they're trying to cast a female character for a male character who is a parallel to Jesus as well. So it's just it's also just kind of just spitting in the face of Lewis's work. I wouldn't want someone to take my films and then make them totally different. Like, this is a gripe that I have with the Maze Runner movies. The books are solid. Book 1 is probably the best. And then the movies are completely different. Movie 1 is the closest, but they miss out on some key things. And then the next 2 movies are like nothing like the books. There's like 10% similarity, and then that's it. It made me ticked off. It was like, what is this? They did not adapt this movie the way it was supposed to. So, Melody. Suppose I write about a girl who was bullied by her classmates to the point where she changed schools. She sees them years later and plans her revenge. I'm uncertain how to answer that, because it depends on the story. What kind of revenge story is it? Are we seeing, okay, here's the question I would ask, is what is the point that we're seeing with this character? Are we seeing the fallout? Are we seeing, like, she tries to take revenge and then it makes something, like, there's a bad consequences, and then she has to seek forgiveness? What is the overall, like, what's the point? Like, you're at point A, which is the beginning of the story. What's point B? So you have the beginning, middle, and end. What's the point of the end of the story? Where does she end up? Something like that? Yeah. Okay. Well, then, yeah, kind of, it's like, it's, it's slipping from me, but kind of like the redemption and that kind of thing. So, let me see. I'm trying to think of examples of this. Do you guys, anyone in the chat, do you have any examples of this kind of like redemptive, like the redemption kind of character arc? I'm thinking of Prince Zuko from Avatar. Hey, John, good to see you. Yeah, something like that. Look at other examples of people who are in the wrong, and then they make this redemption, and you need to find how do you realistically tie this thread of them going through this experience and making the realization. Yeah, fantasy is my favorite genre too. Yeah, Snow White, my sister saw it. I did not, because I wasn't willing to subject myself to torture. But yeah, so. Okay, so I have something I'd like to share with you guys. I am working on a little project. Let me see if this works. Fiddling around with this stuff here. Okay, bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. And there I am. Look at that. There's me. Okay, so can you guys see this? I'm working on a short film. And oh, my background changed. That's cool. I'm working on a short film, and it is a cautionary tale on the vice of not social media, but the vice of sloth. And so it's kind of springboarding off of the pop culture phenomenon of doom scrolling and kind of trying to take it into a bit more depth. So it'll be a micro short film, about 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm excited. I was fiddling around with something very interesting. I think you guys, I'm very curious to see your thoughts on this, because I'm also happen to be releasing a video on Monday about this, which is generative AI. And so, yeah, I can feel the gasps in the comments already. So I take a nuanced approach to this, because I think it's nuanced. So I'll give an example. Have you guys heard of House of David? That it recently came out, the second season. Good show, very solid. They used generative AI for about 70 shots in the first season, and they used it to expand. So one example, in the David versus Goliath scene where you see the armies on both sides, they used AI to make armies to scale. Because throughout the Old Testament, whenever the Israelites encounter armies of Philistines, the enemy numbers are constantly given as numbers of 50 to 100,000 or more. And so with traditional visual effects, that is challenging and very resource heavy. And so they were able to do that at a fraction of the cost and still make it pretty high quality. And so John Irwin, who's the guy who directed it, he and his indie studio, Wonder Project, were in charge of making this series, and then they partnered with Amazon to what's the word I'm looking for? To bring it to the masses. What am I talking about? Oh gosh darn it! The word is slipping from me. But basically to bring it to more streaming services. And so I think generative AI has a lot of potential, especially for indie artists, to bridge the gap between Hollywood level production versus low budget production. And so, yeah, it's a hot button topic. But I'm fairly optimistic that there's a way around this that blends both the traditional aspect, which I'm very much in favor of, plus this new tech that is able to do some of the things that the traditional tech can't. Like, for example, on a low budget shoot, if you aren't able to do a certain thing with visual effects, because they can cost like thousands of dollars for even a small budget production, AI can be a fraction of the cost, and you're not sacrificing the traditional aspects. So the personal approach I take with generative AI is I will shoot 90% of what I make with my actual camera. And if I don't need to do it with AI, I won't. And so I like the approach of like keeping the human aspects and using generative AI to bridge the gap between some of the more difficult stuff on a smaller budget. So all that to say, I was experimenting with generative AI. Let me pull this up. So what I did is Oh, you can't see my face. What I did was I took a Pinterest board of like 70 plus different images that I curated. And I went through Pinterest and I made I put a bunch of different ideas of what I want this film to look like into a Pinterest board. And then I exported those files and I put them into the AI and I said, okay, help me make a mood board. So this is cool what you can do with AI. You can help it to give you an idea of the visuals that you're thinking of for your movie. So it's not making the movie, but it's helping you to think about fine tuning it. And so I was able to say, okay, make me an image that kind of looks like this based on the references that I gave you, which was like 70 plus. It took me like 30 or 40 minutes to find all the references I wanted. And it made me this, which I think is like, whoa, I can do that kind of lighting. That looks cool. And then I was able to also do another test because I was thinking like, what kind of lighting do I want to do for this film? Hey, Tim, we're just talking about generative AI. And so I used it to get an idea of like, okay, I'm making a horror short. What kinds of like shots do I want in this film? And so I just made like a couple just to get an idea of how might I do this, like with lighting and what kind of lighting do I want to use. And so I think it's very helpful for being able to figure out ideas and like what you want to do, but it doesn't take over the process. So if you're not outsourcing God-given responsibilities or talents to AI, it's within reason. Yeah, I agree with that. It's an interesting topic, and a lot of people are kind of, I want to say there are a lot of opinions out there that don't actually take into account a lot of how AI actually works. So yeah, I think when it comes to storytelling, there's a line that I do not want to cross, which is that the story needs to be made by humans. And so I wouldn't consider, like, if a book is written by AI, I wouldn't consider that art, because art, it comes from the soul, right? And so if we want to say have a movie, it needs to be written by humans. There needs to be human involvement. And so what I'm in advocacy for is AI taking over some of the other things, like say visual effects, to a degree, which, by the way, will not destroy visual effects artists and their jobs. It will take away some, but it will not take away all, because in House of David, there were over 80 visual effects artists in season 1 alone, and they used some AI selectively because there are only 70 shots. Yeah, sounds like Jurassic Park using a big mix of CGI and practical effects, but using a good mix of AI and using it to make your creative vision to come to life. Yeah, I think visual effects is one of those areas that you could use generative AI within reason. Like for the examples I gave with them using AI to add armies to scale in the scene. Versus having traditional visual effects would be very resource heavy and having to add so many different characters in the scene, and just takes so long to render. I was in 3D animation for at least 3 or 4 years, so I understand the struggle a bit. Yeah, Bruno, that's really tough. I'm sorry for that. This is where I don't like whitewash, like painting with a broad brush when it comes to this, because there are legitimately some very very tough scenarios, like with you and your fellow artists who lost your jobs. That's really tough, and that is not what I'm advocating for at all. which is why it's such a difficult topic sometimes, because people like to come to just like a, this is how it is, when there's so many different nuances to this topic. And then there are situations like yours that also complicate it too, right? Because every new technology does get rid of some jobs too. And it's really a tough scenario to be in. So I think, yeah, there's a lot that we need to still explore and try and figure out, like, what does this mean for us really? Because I don't think at the end of the day, we don't really have any concrete answers for what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And so we need to definitely set some guardrails, which is why we're having these discussions like, okay, where's the line that it crosses? Which is, I'm hoping to start giving some sort of answer for you guys to explore in the video that's coming out on Monday. And yeah, it's a very interesting topic. Yeah, Melody, using ChatGPT for experimenting with scenarios, but not using that for your actual stories. I have used AI as like a proofreader, which it's kind of like critiquing. So it's not you don't want it to take over the process of writing. That's where it crosses the line, I think, is because art is you imparting your soul and like your experiences to another person. And AI can't do that because it's an abstract digital thing, right? Yeah, I think with the world and AI, I think there's some interesting situations. The AI data centers are, if I'm being honest, those concern me. If not so much the environmental reasons, because the Earth is actually a lot more filled with resources than we've been told, like oil, for example. I saw a video the other day, which it's actually very plentiful, and we've kind of been tricked into thinking that it's scarce when it isn't. And so anyway, it's more the concern of all of this data being centralized, and then who knows what's going to do with that centralized information, like government, FBI, who knows. And so that is a concern for me, is they're taking in all this data, and so that's not the generative AI aspect per se. It's more on the kind of like the chat AI, kind of like ChatGPT. You go in there and you're having a conversation with it, and it's taking in all this information. Like you're telling it like, here's like, you're telling it all of your info, and that's going to a data center. And so that concerns me. I'm not really sure what to do with that, other than like there needs to be a way to decentralize that. I don't know. See, that's where I'm not on a singular. I haven't come to a conclusion on some of that stuff yet, because there's so much to explore. But it's definitely sketchy. I agree with that. It's sketchy for sure. Yeah, the polluting water. I mean, there is something to say though about, have you seen those videos of the data centers and the frequency that they're emitting, and just this weird, it's like, that's the thing with technology, is there's some getting into like conspiracy theory stuff, but there's some odd stuff to explore there, and just there's some questions to explore for sure. Yeah. So not to take away from your point that there aren't like some environmental stuff at all. There certainly is. What's my least favorite trope in literature? Oh man. That's a tough one. Maybe like Do you guys know the teen, like in those family movies with the teen who has like an attitude issue and like, oh, you just don't understand me, and then storm to their room. And they're like wearing black and like always listening to something, never like that one kind of just like, okay, we have we have enough of those tropes. We're done with that. AI should aid humanity, not replace it. 100% agreed. Yeah. This, it's, see, that's where I take the, no, there's like a huge hair on this. That's where I take the approach of humans make the art, AI becomes an instrument. It's like a tool in your tool belt. And so you write the story. I wouldn't consider music made by AI as music per se. It isn't art because art is inherently human. And AI is not human, so it can't make art. However, like any tool, it can help the human make the art. And so it's just one of those topics that needs to be explored, I think. And a lot of the stuff like how does AI get, like how do you get the images, like the reference images and all of that? There are huge misunderstandings as to like the topic of theft and stuff like that, which I'm still learning about. But from the research that I have done, it has been so overblown. And actually, in reality, generative AI learns how to do things similar to how human does. And so if you, for example, want to learn how to draw a train, you look up pictures of train, and then you learn they have the wheels, they have the smoke that comes out of the thing. Not the best example. And so AI essentially does that. It's math, exactly. And so here's how it goes. It's the way that generative AI learns is through diffusion. And so it takes a reference image and then it fills it with noise. And so now it has a blank canvas, a completely noisy image. Has nothing to do with the reference image at all. And so then what it does is when you tell it, I want you to make an image of an apple in the style of an anime. And so then it takes that noisy image and it takes away the noise until it has something. And so it isn't taking an image and then a bunch of images and then collaging them together to make something. It's taking something like a completely blank canvas and then making something from it. So that's kind of like the bird's eye view of it, but there's a lot into it. Using AI to generate images and call it art is unethical, but is it unethical to sometimes help yourself with AI to finish your art that you've put a lot of effort on? So here's something that I'm going to be exploring in my horror short, is trying to use AI to assist in the design of the monster. And I might start doing it and be like, this sucks, this doesn't look good, I'm not going to use it. Or it might turn out to be very good. And so I plan on shooting that film 100% practical and then using AI only like when necessary, so in the design of the monster. And so in that case, it really just, I think I'm still exploring this, so I can't give like a definitive answer on it. But I would venture to say, as long as you're keeping the essence of your art and not letting AI take over the story, then you're probably like, just err on the side of caution. But use AI for the stuff to fill the gap. Like, for example, I don't know how to do prosthetics, so I'm going to try to use AI to make a monster with the prosthetics that I want. And so it might turn out that it looks terrible and I won't use it, but I don't know. So it's an experiment. So I think that's the way that we go forward, is we experiment and we try to understand how do we use this? What are the boundaries for it? And then that's how we get a better understanding of it. Bruno, you say AI is good for big workflows as an assistant, but not for deep personal use. Yeah, replacing it for therapists and doctors. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Because if you're basically treating it, it's essentially software. So if you're treating it like any software tool, then it will help you to assist in the process of making the art. But for the personal stuff, like therapists, like it goes to the data centers, right? And so I wouldn't want my deepest, darkest secrets out on a centralized space for just anybody to access. No, thank you. And so then with AI, we also have to differentiate between there's generative AI, there's the music AI, music, and then there's, the chat space kind of AI. So there's different types of AI, and we've tended to kind of mold them, kind of like mush them together and make a blanket statement like, oh, they're all bad, when there's actually different types of AI. And so they all do different things. Maybe as a reference, but building your reference as part of the process as any other. So keeping the essence gets tricky with AI. That's, well, in the end, that's why I'm exploring this, because it's an experiment to see what is it like actually. Because there are a lot of people with opinions on how AI actually works, but the way that we find out the truth is we need to figure this out ourselves, because there are a lot of different opinions and people out there who they just don't really know what they're talking about. So that's why I'm exploring with this, because I'm trying to figure out where the lines are. And so that's where the experimentation comes in. My least favorite trope is when the villain pulls his punches on the main characters, but goes full killer mode on the other people who are not the main characters. Yeah. That's one of the most annoying ones for sure. What microphone am I using now? It is a Blue Yeti. Yeah, I use it in all my videos. So it's a decent mic. I've been thinking of upgrading at some point, but we'll see. What are your thoughts on the ethical concerns of AI scraping from copyrighted material? Yeah, that. Oh, both of you asked the same question. That's cool. Yeah, that is a question that I'm still learning about. But from, I don't know, it goes into, yeah, some more topics that I'm still learning about. There are some resources I could share that would be able to explain it better than I. But I think about it like this. If I just think personally, if someone used an AI and they were training it on, say, cinematic techniques, for example, and they used a bunch of different short films on YouTube to do this, and mine were included in that, would I really have a problem with that? And I had to ask myself that question. And I thought, well, they're essentially using it as inspiration to train this AI on cinematography techniques. Am I really bothered by that? Not really. However, if they're going to use that information to then make a carbon copy of my not my style, but my short film, like a carbon copy, okay, that is where I would have an issue. But for example, myself as a filmmaker, I take huge inspiration from like Gox and his cinematography. Am I ripping him off? Maybe. There's this quote, good artists copy, great artists steal, right? And so it goes into kind of the topic of inspiration and what does that look like? And how are we defining theft, right? And so, and then we've kind of lumped in AI as like, it's this sentient thing, which is stealing. Well, AI can't steal because it isn't a human. Stealing is something that God forbids humans, and AI is not a human. So really, if we're going to be specific, we would have to think, what is the human who's using the AI doing? What is their intent? Are they trying to literally steal someone's short film and upload it and pretend it's theirs using AI. So it's a complex topic. Have I ever seen If Mia Frey hired Shelley to kill her on YouTube? You know what? I'm not familiar. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, you sent a link on my Discord. Cool. I'll take a look. When using AI for research, please go to the resources they pull to make a point. Yes. Yes, this is just basic when it comes to writing an essay, because that's the approach that I take, because I was trained in the essay format. And so you always want to double check your sources, go to first sources if you can, and a lot of research. And so AI is good for some stuff, but it hallucinates sometimes. So you do want to make sure and just, yeah. So definitely don't offhand, don't just offload everything to AI for sure. But there are a lot of things that it's helpful for, like administration, for example. So you can't hear anything? Hold on. No? Can you guys hear me? Okay. I was looking at my mic. It says that it's good, so it should be fine. Yeah. Do you think it's best to keep devlogs, production videos separate from your actual film channel? Depends on your channel. Because I don't know if you've heard of Pony Smasher, crazy name, but he is an indie filmmaker on YouTube, and he uploads everything, his short films, his behind the scenes footage, to just one channel. So I don't know, personal preference. Do whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah, Tim goes back to the whole nothing is evil on its own right. It's how things are used that makes them good or evil. Yeah. It's yeah, then that's a good way to put it. I have nothing to add to that. Noel, hey, how are you doing? How is my project with the VHS style tape doing? Any new projects? Yes, I was just talking about a short film that I'm working on now, and I will be just kind of like exploring, like just I'm just gonna go for it and just make a bunch of short films, and yeah, it's kind of inspired by doom scrolling, a personal experience that I had, so kind of using pop culture as an inspiration for it. What's a big dream creative project that I want to make? So I have a bunch, but one of them is a series, and so it is an apocalyptic kind of series, originally inspired by analog horror, but it's kind of morphed into something else. So I'm not going to give any spoilers, because it'll be big. I'm thinking at least it'll be serial, so at least 3 seasons, maybe more. But it will have it'll be a YouTube series, and it'll be exploring, like, I really want to explore the idea of, like, what does it look like when evil takes over a world, and, you know, like demonic oppression and things like that, and to explore the spiritual warfare side of things. Do I ever want to make feature films? Yes. And I have some very interesting ones that I want to make, just to kind of see what will their reactions be. And, you know, like with the Hollywood and stuff. So I don't know if you guys have heard of stuff like Hollow Earth or any of that. I don't believe that. But just to see, like, there's this one guy who he wrote a book who apparently he saw all these things and he wrote it down. And I want to make a movie about it just to see kind of like if you put something like this out, what are people's reactions? Because my theory is that based on the kinds of films that you put out, the kinds of reactions that you get will tell you a lot about what do people believe and what kinds of societal norms are you challenging with it. So, it's an interesting food for thought. Yeah, Bird Nerd, good to see you. The channel's back. Hernandez, good to see you. Demote, yeah, a feature-length film. I will be. I'm just going to. I need to kind of find my voice with short films, so I'm just gonna make a bunch, and then the plan is to eventually make a series, and then feature-length films. Hey Harry. Iron Lung, yeah. Oh, the creator of the game is a Christian. Do tell. This is something I have not heard of. Wow. Yeah, Tim. No budget shorts are where it's at, and then eventually, building up a pool of some money to continue to make bigger and better ones. Yeah, the Backrooms movie, solid movie. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, which means it's good. It's 2 points above average. Iron Lung is the best depiction of hell. Yeah, with like the blood and the pool, the concept. Yeah. Yep, I'm glad the channel's back too. It has been a wild ride. And actually on that topic, when the channel was, so it was deleted for 6 days. And so during that time, I had channel memberships, and that was just gone. So I have moved memberships to Patreon. Not only it's a very nice platform, and it just kind of consolidates everything, but I'm actually able to offer more over there than here. So that's the only really big update since the channel is back. Is now the memberships are on Patreon, and I do have a secret podcast that I've released for tier 2, so it's $15 a month, and it includes a bunch of other stuff like some ad-free content, and but there's a podcast that I put out just for members, and to like exploring. One guy asked if I can review Halo. I can absolutely do that, and so yeah, there's just I think if any of you guys are interested, I think the podcast would be a huge blessing just to be able to explore that kind of like in a different content format, because these videos take months to make. So this video that I just finished, it took 6 weeks, and I just finished yesterday. So I'm gonna put the link here just for anyone who's interested. Oh my gosh, and it's giving me the longest link ever. Holy cow. I don't get this. Okay, fixed. Oh yeah, Kane Parsons' Oldest View series. Oh man, it was good. I even like geeking out on just some of the visual effects with like he's recording in real life, the ground, and then he puts stairs into it, and he tracks it in. So cool. Wow. Yeah, Iron Lungs creator is Christian. It's actually reminds me of Five Nights at Freddy's, who made the game, the guy who made the game, Scott Coffin, and he's Christian as well. And his kids actually helped him make it, funny enough. Homo. Nice. Scott Coffin. Yeah. Thanks, Zach. Really appreciate you. Love you, brother. Thank you for your support. Yeah, all of you guys, all of your support, and even just being here in the chat really helps. Oh, we have 26 people watching now. This is awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys. I think we're building something special here with just being able to analyze films and even like AI from an objective perspective with a lot of curiosity, learning with each other. Honestly, that's how we're gonna change the world, is by having these conversations, bouncing ideas, and with learning how do we make better art. Having these conversations, super important. So, when did I start really gaining a following on YouTube? Probably, I would say, last year. Last June, with the Stop Forcing the Gospel into Every Scene. That one is at almost 800,000 views now. Oh, I can't believe that. Yeah, so then, it was that one, and then K-pop Demon Hunters, and then It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, those three videos all popped off. I'm pretty sure that video will hit 1 million this Christmas, just because it really struck a chord with people, just like with suicide and stuff, and like, because the movie covers a dark topic, even though it's centered around Christmas. So yeah, it's a lot of broken people in that comment section. If you guys go to that video and just look at the comments, there are a lot of people, lost people in there searching. Broke my heart, because like, I'm some random guy. I can't really help them. There are people who are like suicidal, reaching out to see if anyone is there. And it really breaks my heart. My heart goes out to them. Ace Attorney, yeah. You talking about AI? Or, oh, I see. What is that? What is that an abbreviation for? All the letters. I don't know what that is. I'm looking at some sort of Sanskrit language here. Corbin found my channel a week before I got hacked. Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting situation. So the funny thing about that is that I was super tired, and I was just finishing up on this video. I was like a few days away from finishing. So this was last Friday. I took a nap, and when I woke up from my nap, I was checking my accounts and they were gone. And so I was like, oh crap, what happened? And then I put two and two together, and I'm like, oh, silly me. I clicked a link, a suspicious link, which it's like something that old people do. And I did it. No shade to old people, but yeah, I woke up to a nightmare. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a wild situation, but it's back. The only thing now is that all my videos are like getting 50 to 100 views a day, and before I was at thousands of views a day. Yeah, Ben, Ben and Zach, they're in the Discord server, which is in the description, by the way. And he was like, is this stream you? Hey, what's up with that weird stream? And it was some guy about Trump and crypto and this. Ugh, so weird. Not the first younger YouTuber to get their account hacked by the same people. Is it by Social Peaks? Is it by Social Peaks? Hold on. Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold on. Holding the phone. I took. Oh, Kaya, thank you. Really appreciate you. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you. This isn't a crypto channel? Crazy, right? No. No, it isn't. Okay. I have something I would like to share if I can pull it up. Clicking through all this stuff. If I can find it. Okay, there are a bunch of tabs everywhere. I'm sorry. It's taking a while. Where is it? There we go. There we go. Okay. Now I have it. Okay. So if I pull this up, can you guys see this? So I took this video. This is them. This is their website. Zach, appreciate you. I'll see you later. So this is their website, Social Peaks, and this is their process, by the way. Here's how they get you to sign up. Join Social Peaks, add your thing, and go to YouTube. You add your channel link, and then they make you sign up. So I recorded this video just in case if anything were to happen. So yeah, hackers have really advanced in their web design. No kidding. It has gotten absolutely insane. Yeah. The link for the Discord isn't working. Ooh. It should be working. I clicked the link and it should be working. Yeah, so crazy. Yeah, their website looked. Wow. What version of the Bible do I use? I use ESV, I believe. I believe it's the ESV. Yeah. Can I get a free Discord link? Since yeah, the Discord link, the Discord community is free, so it should work. Yeah. I really appreciate you guys being here and your support. It means a lot, especially with the channel having been hacked. It's in the link. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Here, I'll paste it. I'll paste it in here. Yeah, there you go. No, you got scammed by an Instagram marketing specialist. Yep. Lesson for life right there. Yeah. Won't be doing that again. That's for sure. Yeah, if any of you haven't joined the Discord, I believe we have over 30 members in there now. So we have a monthly call. So our next monthly, we have a monthly call where we'll discuss like your projects, fellowship, just have a hangout. So there'll be one next week. So yeah, hope to see you guys there. It's a fun time. Lots of time for discussions and debates and all of that, all in good nature, of course. I have not seen What Dreams May Become, but what was it? Good Will Hunting is on my radar. I'm sorry, Demote. I saw your question earlier and I didn't get to it. What does my creative process look like? So it usually begins with an idea. And when I get an idea, it's usually quite clear. And so I'll write it down, I'll jot it down. And then I will typically, what I've been doing now recently, is I make a playlist on Spotify full of songs that inspire either lyrics that tell me about a character that I'm thinking of, or a situation, or an environment. And so I wrote a 20-page screenplay 3 weeks ago. And I hadn't written anything in just about a year. And so I made a playlist for that. It's a horror film. And yeah, I find a playlist really helps. And so then from there, I usually go about making the script. I outline first. So I go beginning, middle, end, first plot point, second plot point, Dark Night of the Soul. And I just kind of go through that outline. And from there, I follow it. Sometimes it changes in the process. And then for my films, I will make a shot list. So I'm making a behind the scenes for the short film I'm making now. And so that will be available to members when it comes out. So yeah, it's a fun process. What would I call a good Christian movie? And why do you say that secular movies are good? So the answer to this is that everything. So let me first say this. In my pursuit of definitions, in trying to understand how do we define what a Christian movie is, and the conclusion that I came to was that a Christian movie is one that the morality is founded on Christ. It's God's morality. So murder is wrong, pedophilia is wrong, abortion is wrong, all of that. And we see it's God's morality. And so then we take that from there. And so how do we get secular movies that are good movies? And we see like not made by a Christian, but they have some very good themes in there. And so that's because everything is on a spectrum. And so you have films that are more aligned with the Christian ethics and ones that are not. So you get like on the very far end, I'm thinking of the Saw series, not 1 and 2, which I still need to see, but the later ones, which I've heard some iffy things about. What other films? I'm trying to think. There was one. There was this anime called Darling in the Franxx, which was, I could not handle it. It's so sexual. Not all anime is like that, thankfully, but everything's on a spectrum. And so that's how you get secular people who borrow from the Christian worldview and have Christian ethics in their film. And so you get those themes in there. So does that answer your question? Because it's an answer that took me a while to get to, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Corban, join the Discord, Absolute Cinema. I'll see you over there. Thanks for joining. Yeah, music does help the creative process. I'm also a musician, so that probably helps. I compose my own music, and I've been a classical musician for over 7 years now, so it just kind of comes naturally. Good Will Hunting made you make a Letterboxd account. What instruments do I play? I play the piano. Yep. Christian movie equals Christian worldview, but I think it's good to recognize that Christian art has different purposes. Some is just for entertainment, some is evangelistic, some are for believers. Yeah, and so there are different purposes for different movies. So this is why there is a time and a place for God's Not Dead, because obviously it resonated with a certain kind of audience. But we shouldn't make all movies like that as Christians. So yeah, there's a time and a place. You learned guitar after playing piano? Yeah. I think the first instrument that I ever tried learning was electric guitar. So there is that. What are my thoughts on Dracula? I haven't seen Dracula the Love Story, but I have read the first few chapters of Dracula because I was in Europe 2 years ago, and this store had this book. It's like the gothic horror. It includes a bunch of stuff, and it includes Dracula as well. And it's a very good story. And I later learned that Bram Stoker, the guy who wrote it, was a Christian. And then I also learned that the woman who wrote Frankenstein was a Christian. And there are overt Christian themes in both books, talking about the Lord's Supper, talking about redemption, or even Christ's sacrifice, and like, the life is in the blood, and what does that mean? Coming from Leviticus. Jack says, Christian music suffers from the same problems like movies, and that just makes many people return to secular music. Yeah. I think there's actually a lot of good heavy metal out there that's made by Christians. And Convictions is one. It's a terrific band. Disciple is another. Yeah, but here's also the thing, Jack, is that secular people, when they're writing music, because we are made in the image of God, and the very pillars of our universe are built on truth and beauty, they will inherently pull from God's principles. So they may end up making music that sounds very Christian. And so I don't think necessarily that we need to divide things into secular bad, Christian good. It's in that people who create objectively good art are glorifying God either way. But of course, like I said before, everything's on a spectrum. So that's where discernment comes in. Josh, good to see you. Have you thought about re-uploading your videos that were for YouTube members to be available for people who are not YouTube members? Some. But yeah, I think there are some topics that just like it's less produced and it's just more casual, like exploring stuff. So I keep that more for members and keep the more professional stuff public facing. But on the note of members, I do have a members only podcast that will be that is out now. So it's out on Patreon if anyone's interested. Yeah, there is a lot of good Christian music out there. Yeah, Song of Solomon and Book of Esther never explicitly mention God. That is true. Analyzing Mia DeFay. Maybe. I'll take a look at the link you sent in Discord. So I'll get back to you on that. I'm just grabbing a link. Yeah. Copy. Yeah, Christian music does tend to go to certain kinds of music, but even think like classical music was heavily inspired by Christianity, because we get the Gregorian chants, which inspired polyphony, which is like the multiple different melodies at the same time, and harmony, things like that, which inspired Bach, and he was an absolute genius. He was a devout Lutheran. So, yeah, I just think like no matter where you go, the Christian artists were developing these genres and art for so long. Switchfoot, yeah. What's another one? Oh, I'm forgetting now. But there's also Demon Hunters. They're good. Have I thought about doing a video on Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey? So I would love to do like a video or two a month. The only thing is that my videos take upwards of 4 weeks to make, start to finish. The video I just finished, which will be live on Monday, took 6 weeks to make. So I kind of have to pick and choose which topics I'm going to make, which topics and movies I'm going to cover. So I might do a podcast episode on it, though. I might do that. We'll see. Yes, John. Christian themes, though the artist may be secular. That's right, because those themes are in the very fabric of our universe. I have not seen the Wing Feather Saga. I've heard good things, though. Hey, Emmanuel. How are you going? How are you going? How are you going? That's a new one. Got my words mixed up. Yeah, the majority of Christian movies suck because they prioritize the message instead of good storytelling. Yeah, but when you tell a good story, the message will be conveyed naturally. So that's just how it works. Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny. I didn't even notice that, but someone in the comments pointed out that Rumi, her necklace, is a cross. And I didn't even see that. So, very cool. It's kind of funny how that works. Hey, Blister. How's it going? Yeah. It's definitely a misconception. Like, if you don't mention... I mean, so many people leave a comment about, like, it has to explicitly mention Jesus, God, scripture, an altar call, a conversion scene, a pastor, a sermon. When Jesus himself didn't even do that in his parables. So I think there's a little more nuance to it. Ace Attorney, it is possible. We'll see. Like I said before, I have to pick and choose which videos I make because they take so long to make. Like the production, ever since I started making videos, since last year, it would take maybe a week or two, and now it's taking over a month to make. So now it just depends. Yeah, the Dear Santa movie, I think it just kind of trivializes a very real demonic figure, Satan. And we don't want to trivialize evil, especially with kids, with an audience who's their kids. Yeah, with God's Not Dead, there are people that are just, with atheists, that they're just like, why do Christians always need to make it about themselves, and like they're always victimizing, and it's because of stereotypical movies like that. Better art and more developed theology equals higher quality art. Absolutely agreed. Yeah, and it doesn't help if you have jellyfish theology either. That won't help. What are your thoughts on Mel Gibson's Resurrection of the Christ? I am so excited. Words can't describe. I am excited. In his interviews, he was like, it's going to be an acid trip and it's going to be crazy. I'm ready for it. Bring it on. I'm ready to explore the fallen angels and see, like, from the cinematic perspective. It's going to be so cool. And I'm definitely doing a video on that series for sure. So excited. Yeah. Mel Gibson's awesome. What are your thoughts on Chronicles of Narnia? Good. I actually am a big fan of the, not the BBC series, or I don't can't remember the whatever the it's an older series, not that one. It's the newer one. I forget which studio made it, but I don't get why people don't like those. They do deviate from the books a tiny bit, but I like those books. Sorry, I like those movies. The movies are great. Read the books a long time ago when I was a child. Walden Media, yeah, that's what it was. I have those movies hold a place in my heart, and the cinematography is good too. A good movie that isn't explicitly Christian but has a lot of Christian symbolism is Prisoners. I haven't seen it, but yeah, there it reminds me of Shawshank Redemption. Not explicitly Christian, but there's some good themes of redemption, friendship, perseverance in there. Yeah, yeah. I might have to reread the Chronicles of Narnia. I still need to. I read book one of Lord of the Rings, and the style is so dry. I wasn't used to it, so not bad, not bad, but dry, and I'm unused to it. So, um, I need to continue Lord of the Rings. It was a bit of a struggle. Yeah, Ace Attorney. Send me a DM and we'll catch up. How many times have you read Narnia, Tim? The Symbolic World by Jonathan Pageau. Yeah, I haven't seen that. It rings a bell though. The name rings a bell. Ding ding. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is a rough read, isn't it? but I adore the movies. It's a tradition to watch it every Christmas now. Pinatas were for hitting and getting rid of sins? Wow. I have never heard of that before. That's the more you know. Wow. Yeah, what's your favorite series? Your book series? Favorite books and movies? The guy shaking a dude with a turban and sunglasses. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you guys for being on here. This is fun. Love talking to you guys. And if you join the Discord, then I will also be talking with you on the monthly call. Have I watched Over the Garden Wall? Yes, I have. Twice, I think. It's like a fever dream, but it's good. And Potato and Molasses lives rent free in my head. It's a catchy song. Uh, Mistborn, yeah, that's a W book. I'm actually just finishing the third one. I've read that series. I think this is my second time now. Also read Wax and Wayne. That was a good series too. And then Stormlight. Stormlight. So good. Tolkien. Yeah, it's good. Could you explain about the movie Dear Santa with Jack Black and why you'd absolutely agree it's an absolute abomination of a Christmas movie? Well, like I said, I mentioned earlier on this, it trivializes evil and it trivializes an evil figure, so Satan, who is very much real, very much present, and just makes him kind of like some cool dude that he's just hippie, weird, cool dude that he's just your sidekick. And that is wrong. And it's targeted toward kids, so it just completely messes it up. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is timeless. It's so good. The Rohirrim marching on the enemies in the battle is it the Battle of Pelennor Field? That one, or no, maybe it isn't. It's the battle for Minas Tirith. That one gives me chills every time. And then when the music kicks in there, and then Théoden is like, death, and they're just like, whoosh, and there's, it's just like gives me chills. Almost tear up whenever I watch it. What's my perspective on the movie Sinners? So I don't have a strong opinion on it, only because the only time I ever saw it was I was going to Europe, to Italy, actually. This was last year. And so it was on the trip there and back. The airplane had TVs, and the person in front of me or beside me or something like that was watching Sinners, and there were sex scenes in it. And I was just like totally turned off by it. So I don't really have an interest in watching that movie anytime soon. I was just like, oh, and on an airplane too. Like, this is weird. Yeah. Have I watched the Harry Potter movies? Because for me, what I don't like about it is they glorify the witchcraft. So, this is an interesting topic on the topic of magic, because there is a concern that in fantasy, these fictional stories, that if we're reading about the stuff, that it is glorifying evil, and the Bible talks about sorcery and that kind of thing. So what we need to do is we need to be able to use our maturity as Christians to be able to discern between fantasy magic and real world magic. They're separate from one another. And if you look even to like the spells that are used in Harry Potter, like Leviosa comes from the word levitate, which is like, nothing's going to happen by saying that. Or even like, just like coming from kind of words that we use in every day that is kind of fiddled around with to be kind of funny. But to go back to the main point, we need to be able to differentiate between fantasy magic, which is not based in real world magic, and then real world magic, which is actual black magic, which is contacting demons in exchange for, like, I will give you blood in exchange for money or whatever it is. So there's a differentiation between that. However, there are some things, like, of course, with Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling has specifically mentioned how the character of Harry Potter was inspired by some Christian themes. So you get the resurrection, you get the sacrifice for his friends, and then he's resurrected. And then there's the power of love, is what saves Harry Potter when Voldemort tries to kill him. And actually, which I found very interesting, is that there's this very biblical message when it comes to how Voldemort fragmented his soul, because whenever you murder someone, it fragments your soul. And so this is like how you make the Horcrux, which is like an object that you put a piece of your soul into so that you never die and you have immortality. And so the series is very clear about this, that is a bad thing. And when you commit the sin of murder, you are fragmenting your soul. And it is a destructive thing to both you and the other person. And so, of course, that being said, J.K. Rowling doesn't get everything perfect. And there are some parts that I read in Harry Potter that I was kind of like, okay, it's not exactly how I would have done it, being a Christian. But that said, I don't think it's witchcraft, and I don't think it's demonic. Yes, yeah, Scott, there are tons of people who take issue with Harry Potter, and I think there are some valid concerns there. But yeah, it's I think it's just a bit overblown. Wouldn't we need to know what real magic is to differentiate? Is it always a blood exchange? So there are some podcasts I would recommend where, what's it? Let me think here. You know what? Go to the Discord server and I will try and find it. But it's this Christian man, and he interviews a lot of people, some of them ex-Satanists. And so the reason I'm able to say with such confidence is that there's a difference. I mean, if we just logically look at the difference between fantasy magic and real world magic, we can see there's a difference. But also, if you listen to these people who have actually done real magic, you can tell it's completely different from fantasy magic. And then the second thing is that we have characters like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings who uses magic to be able to defeat evil. And so there is such a thing as the magic is kind of like in fantasy, I kind of see it as more of like a power that is natural to this world. And it's not so much divination, which is completely different and is based in our real world. So am I going to re-upload the live stream with the Christian superhero man? I don't think so. Not yet. Not currently. Not planning on it. What does it mean to trust in Christ? What does it look like? Hold on. What does it look like in oneself? Can you rephrase that? I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Demote says, Attack on Titan is my favorite series. I'm going to make you mad. I hate the ending. I hate it. And I don't usually have such a visceral response to a series. I was so excited for the ending, and I was like, oh, it's going to be awesome. And then it was so disappointing, and I was ticked off that it was so meaningless and bleak and hopeless. And I was just like, oh, the cycle of violence continues, and wars, and there's no end. And it's such a nihilistic perspective, and I really was severely disappointed by the ending. Even though I really liked some other parts of the series, but yeah, I found the endings disappointing. Yeah, Josh, I'm with you on that. Oh, the sex scenes are so uncalled for. We don't need them. Yeah, magic, supernatural subject matter. Because I mean, you think in these movies, it is inherent to the world, so it's like a power that's in the world, but it is supernatural. But it doesn't mean it's bad. But it's like a tool. There's good and bad. Cowboy Bebop, I did like it. I wasn't able to finish it though. I'll have to revisit. Violet Evergarden. I love that series. It's one of my favorites. Violet Evergarden is such a good anime. Hold on. Where you're writing a fanfic, fixing the series finale. Good. Yeah. Good seeing you, Tim. Yeah, like the Force in Star Wars. That's exactly it. Could I speak more on how Jesus told stories? Yeah. So here, it's a big topic. Okay, you're gonna get the fire hose. Okay. So, when Jesus tells stories, first we have to go into why does Jesus tell stories? And he tells stories because God is a storyteller. And we can make that claim pretty confidently because he gave us a book full of stories. And so why does God tell stories? Well, stories are inherent to our very being. We love stories, and God made us to love stories. It's why when you're having a conversation with a friend, they're like, okay, I need to tell you a story, or I need to tell you something that happened at work. You're like, do tell. We lean in. And also, psychologically speaking, there was this TED Talk I saw where was Sarah Murray, I believe her name was, gave a TED talk on how when we're listening to people telling stories, our brains are somehow, we're psychologically reacting to it as if we're in the story ourselves. And so it's this super cool neurology, and just it's part of our very universe that God made it so that we are creative beings who love stories. And I just find that so cool because God is the greatest storyteller. And I think that just makes me love him even more because he knows the things that we love. And Jesus, when he's telling those stories, it's because he's going after the hearts of the people and he's trying to reach their hearts. We often put up these barriers because we're trying to protect ourselves. And Jesus was able to navigate that because he told these stories that hook people in and go after their experiences and things they relate with. What are the thoughts on Dark Souls, grimdark, dark fantasy? Yeah, I think that would be a great genre for Christians to explore. I like dark. I like I like dark. I like exploring darker themes because you're able to get into topics that we don't really discuss. Stuff like, even like, I'm just thinking of like redemption of, say, someone who was a murderer. Like, how do you go about that? How do you explore that? And someone like the Apostle Paul, for example, was involved in the murder of many Christians, persecution. And so how do you explore this dark story of someone going from Saul to Paul? So I think it can also, fantasy is just a fantastic genre. Yeah, if being creative doesn't mean pushing moral boundaries. Think of this, like with sex scenes, I think they're unnecessary. But if you need to imply that something happened, like in one of my screenplays that I wrote last month, there is a character who she is very much trying to seduce the main character. And so you can imply they enter the bedroom and you just imply something happened, but you don't need to show anything. And I just also think as guys, we need to be a little more honorable, like to honor, like, the Apostle Paul says, our bodies are a temple. So honor God with your bodies. You were bought with a price. And so as the man, we need to be able to honor God with our bodies and our eyes. And then secondarily, honor the women, because this culture has become so hypersexualized, and we need to change that to be able to honor the women who they've just really just become the objects in this society. Yeah, Jesus got around the barriers with love. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Attack on Titan with the view of violence is wrong, and the solution to break the cycle is Jesus. Yes, I was turned on to that series by a friend who she also came to the same conclusion as you. The only reason I disagree is because the author doesn't actually say that that is the solution. And so when we look to the worldview of these people, it's pretty explicit that the author is saying there is no solution. And so that's why I don't like the ending, is because it specifically, explicitly shows there being no solution. So I don't really see it as like, the series is actually good because it shows that, we can deduce as Christians that even though this author is wrong, the solution is Jesus, which is correct. But I think the series itself doesn't really have a great ending for that reason. It was disappointing. Yeah, the horror genre has a lot of potential. Yeah, and Cam, with your horror in the fantasy world that you're making, um, do what Bach did. He made his music to simply glorify God with its beauty, and he made the best music that he possibly could. And so dedicate your stuff to God and just do the best you can with the skills you have. Yeah, I mean, implying something happened with sex scenes. Um, you're able. I think it just comes to like protecting your audience, and for me, when I think of if there is anything in a film that I'm making that I would be uncomfortable with the actor and actresses doing, I'm not going to do it because I don't want them to cross a line. Um, the Apostle Paul says, don't make others stumble. You need to be mindful. And so if it is something that I would not be comfortable with someone else doing, I'm not going to make them do it in the story. I haven't seen the Long Walk movie. Yeah, movies in heaven. Yeah, yeah. Bach is spelled Bach. Yeah, great. He would write Soli Deo Gloria in all of his sheet music, and he would dedicate it to Christ. So cool. Yeah, and actually the series that the book series, Destiny's Edge, he does a great job of implying if something happened, but not making a big scene. So I would highly recommend. Yeah, yeah, I think our full potential will be realized in heaven. Um, we're just like even the genius of Bach and Mel Gibson. Um, it'll be fully realized in heaven and our full potential. So super excited to see that. Yeah, there's so many cool Easter eggs. So wow, you guys have been staying with me for almost 2 hours here. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I'm probably going to hop off here soon. So, one thing I would mention is so I'm working on a short film. I'll be posting updates. A new video will be coming out on Monday on generative AI. So, I will be posting that. So, Monday. So, make sure you guys set your calendars 6 a.m. on Monday morning. It'll be coming out. That's 6 a.m. PST, by the way. Yeah, and so if you guys want to support my work and anything else, go ahead, go to Patreon, and I'll be able to see you guys over there. So, hold on, I'm just gonna paste this. Yeah, Cam, late join. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Will I be directing games? I'll take this last question here. I will not be directing games, but I am a musician, so I do compose music. You can actually, if you go into the description of all my videos, you can see there's music in there. One last question. Kendrick Brothers, I've seen only a few of their films, so I need to revisit that. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Another 20. Wow. Thank you, Kaya. God bless you. Yeah, I'm hoping to do more streams. I really enjoy talking to you guys. But also, join the Discord. It's in the description of all the videos. So I'll see you guys over there. Thank you guys for being here. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.